So I have had a couple of questions about how I assemble some of my fobs, and so I thought I would film a couple more tutorials. I've got a tutorial out there for how I finish my silver dollar fobs, which is a round finish, but there's been a few questions about how I finish the square fobs, this being an example. This is coming out in my, what number is it? Number 7, my forest. Woodland Creatures, that's what I'm calling it, not forest. Woodland Creatures fob set has this little deer, and it's in the standard, in every set I have this same frame with some motifs, usually 3 of them, and I'm going to show you what I do. So first, I got a ruler and I measured and decided how big I wanted my square to be. And I wanted it pretty close to this frame, so I gave myself just a tiny bit beyond that, because once you add some padding and fold the edges around, you're going to have just enough margin around the outside for my taste. You might want yours bigger. So first thing you're going to do is get this is just a 110 standard cardstock that I have cut into the size that I want. They're the same size. And then I chose my backing fabric, which is this cute forest fabric that has a little deer on it, so there'll be a deer on the front and the back. And then I've got a felted wool that it's a standard weight of wool that is typically used for applique, for rug hooking. You could go into your store and just get some felt. Anything that gives it just a little bit of extra padding is what you need. And then you're going to want some acid-free glue stick. I buy these in bulk and go through a lot of them. So, see if I can get the lid off today. First thing you're going to do is just get a bunch of glue on your paper. Just get it on there nice and thick. It's mostly just to hold it in place. This isn't going to be enough for construction, so I didn't go out to the edges. I just want to attach it to the wool is all, and keep them together for the process of assembling my fob. And then I just trim around so that the wool is basically the same size as the paper, although if it's slightly smaller, it's okay. You just don't want the wool to be any bigger than your paper. By the way, I hope you're enjoying my little serenade in the background. I thought I'd sit outside today because it's very pleasant out and the birds are singing. And I thought it might be a nice little addition to this tutorial. Alright, so there you have it. A couple of wonky little squares. Nothing about this process has to be that precise. There's a couple of parts where I'm a little bit more perfectionistic, but you know, this part, it doesn't matter. This is going to be on the inside. Those squares are not perfect, and it's okay. So now what you're going to do is take the wool part is going to go against the back of your stitching. So get that lined up, and then you are going to use the glue again and just glob it on there. Fold your linen over, and you're going to do opposing sides first. You might want to flip it over and do a little check to make sure that you're happy with how that's lined up, and then do the other opposing side on the design. Fold that over. This linen really can set into the glue pretty quickly, which is okay. You can re-glue if you need to, if you're not happy, if you need to pull it off and start over. But I like to get it all set how I like it right off the bat. And then you're going to glue again on top of the linen and the paper. And I do this little thing where I sort of, with my fingers, the linen is relatively easy to manipulate. I kind of pull the points in so that these edges here are slanted in. It's sort of like an envelope fold, but not quite. And then I just fold it over, and that way these edges right here are inside of this outer line for when you're stitching it together. Hope that makes sense. Flip it over, check my fold, everything looks good. So I'm going to do the other side. Just put it on there thick. Do a little pull in of the corners. Fold it up. Stick it down. And you can see it's not going to be, this little part likes to pull up, and it's okay. You basically just want to get the general shape. The glue holds it for you so you don't have to pin, and then it's easier to finish your fob that way. So I just do a little bit of squishing around of the glue with my fingers until I like how the edges look. That one's ready to go. Then you repeat the process with your backing fabric. Now you could, if you wanted, do another stitched piece on the back. You don't have to go with the fabric. I just like having something a little bit different on the back for my fobs. Also makes it easier for the photography for the cover to be able to show all of the stitched parts. And if they were on the back, they wouldn't show. So, little Mr. Deer in the Forest is ready to go. The fabric is a little easier because just the way of the design of the fabric, the linen, you can really see if your lines are off, if your folds are off. With the fabric, it's not nearly such a big deal, so I don't double check mine nearly as much when it's the fabric. But it's the same concept. Glue. Pull those points in just a little bit. Fold, press. Same on the opposite. Pull, fold, press, and now I'm going to look at the other side and make sure it still looks like a square. Do a little bit of, my fingers on the back are sort of pressing into the glue. I think I'm going to add a little bit more there. This guy's being a little bit stubborn. See, it's ugly on the inside, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be hidden. So don't worry about that part. As long as it's stuck, as long as your back or front, as the case may be, looks how you want it, it's all good. So that is how I prepare the part that you're going to see. And then it's just a matter of stacking it and adding your trim, which I'm actually going to show in a different tutorial, because the next question I had that I'm going to address today is different ways of using rickrack. So if you wanted, with this little guy, you could simply insert, let's see if I have an example. I don't, sorry, I wasn't prepared. Hold that thought. Nope, okay, I don't. So sometimes I will use just some seam binding, pretend this is seam binding, and I'll fold it to the length of the loop that I want, and then I simply stick it inside, lined up how I wanted it, and just hold it in place as I stitch around, and I'm done. With this one, I'm going to get a little more fancy, and I'm going to use rickrack trim. So if you want to see how that's done, look through my other videos and you'll find a tutorial for 2 methods of attaching rickrack.